have to, because that's how family actually gets to.
Listen to me. I don't have to. He
Chrissy.
has to. That's your son.
No,
he has
no,
to.
no,
I
no,
don't
no. You
have
have to remember,
This
once
is a
you
choice.
and him get married, and really, as far as I'm concerned, y'all are married, okay? And if you're part of him, okay, and that means he's definitely me. That means that you're.
Y'all guys, welcome back to the channel, where we bring you the latest on celebrity drama and exclusive stories. Today, we've got a jaw-dropping update about the longtime couple, Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin, whose relationship took a dangerous turn after a heated argument ended with Jim slapping Chrissy. But what followed was even more shocking. Jim's own son stepped in, seeking brutal revenge on his father, ultimately throwing him out of the house. Get ready, because we're about to break down all the messy details and explore how things spiraled out of control so quickly. Jim Jones' explosive temper has hit new extremes, and this time, it may have cost him everything. Following an intense argument that ended with Jim striking Chrissy, his son decided to take matters into his own hands in the most brutal way possible. Now, Jim finds himself out of his own home, forced to face the consequences of his actions. But what exactly led to this jaw-dropping confrontation? And is there any hope left for reconciliation? Stay with us as we unpack the family drama that's been tearing them apart, piece by piece. As Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin found themselves caught in a heated dispute, the tension in the room was palpable. Friends and family stood nearby, exchanging uneasy looks, unsure when or how to intervene. You think you can just talk to me like that? Jim, known for his temper, was rapidly losing control, while Chrissy refused to back down. She yelled, "You've crossed a line," her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and anger. Jim's frustration quickly escalated as he shot back, "You don't get to tell me how to handle things." His face reddened with emotion as he shouted at her. As he moved closer, the tension in the room thickened, and suddenly, his eyes narrowed in a burst of rage. The entire room gasped as he slapped Chrissy across the face. The atmosphere shifted dramatically as everyone struggled to process what had just happened. Jim's son, who had been silently observing from the sidelines, finally stepped forward, no longer able to stay quiet. "Dad, that's enough. You can't treat her like that," he said firmly, his voice filled with both concern and anger. "Stay out of this," Jim barked, but his son stood his ground, unfazed by his father's fury. Chrissy, holding her cheek in shock, stared at Jim. Her voice, now dripping with intense anger, rang out. "You've lost your mind," she shouted. "You can't just hit her and think it's all fine. Dad, you're better than this." The tension in the room intensified as the confrontation continued to escalate, with the crowd of onlookers anxiously watching. "You think you know how to run my life?" Jim shot back, stunned by the defiance. "I'm the one who makes the rules around here, and you're making a big mistake." His son, disappointed, shook his head and replied, "This isn't how you solve problems, Dad. You're only driving people away." Still in disbelief, Chrissy regained her composure. "You need to listen to him right now. This is toxic, Jim, and I won't tolerate it anymore." Empowered by his son's support, her words cut through the thick air like a knife. "If you think this behavior is okay, then maybe it's time for you to leave. This isn't the man I thought I knew." Her words hung in the air, and Jim's face turned even redder, a mix of shame and anger now showing. "You think you can kick me out of my own house?" he snarled, but his son didn't waver. "Yes, I can. If this is how you treat the people you care about, then you're not welcome here. You need to get your act together, Dad." The room was thick with tension, and everyone held their breath as Jim struggled to grasp the weight of the confrontation. He spoke in a low, strained tone, teetering between frustration and acceptance. "If that's how it's going to be, then I'll leave it at that." As Jim stormed out, slamming the door behind him, a sense of relief washed over both Chrissy and his son. "Are you all right?" his son asked, concern etched on his face as he turned to Chrissy. She nodded, though her emotions remained raw and unsettled. "It's not just the slap. It's everything that led to it. I still can't believe he went that far," Chrissy said, her voice heavy with disbelief. "We have to stand our ground. This isn't just about today. It's about what we allow moving forward," his son responded, shaking his head. They both exhaled deeply, the realization dawning that this was about more than just one incident. It was about acknowledging Jim's downward spiral. "I've always cared for him, but I can't let this continue," Chrissy said softly but firmly. "I won't allow him to treat me or anyone like this anymore." His son nodded in agreement. "We need to handle this as a family. If he's willing to change, there may still be hope. But if not, we need to protect ourselves." Their words hung in the air, filled with both hope and uncertainty. As time passed and the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the room, Chrissy's son asked, "Do you think he'll come back?" It was clear that Jim's behavior wouldn't be easy to address, but it was necessary. "I don't know," Chrissy answered, her voice tinged with anxiety. "But if he does, we need to be prepared. We can't just ignore this," she added. "It's time for a real conversation." As the evening wore on, Chrissy and her son's bond strengthened. By standing united against the toxicity, they had created a safe space for themselves. Though they knew the road ahead would be challenging, they were ready for it. When Jim eventually returned, there was a quiet determination in the air. Chrissy and her son were resolved to establish a healthier environment, prepared to move forward with the understanding that change wasn't just possible, it was necessary. Together, in a sleek, modern studio filled with quiet anticipation, they were ready for the conversation to come. "I'll get straight to the point," Jim began. "For years, I thought I had it all figured out, love, success, and a future with Chrissy. But recently, I discovered something that completely turned my world upside down. My wife, Chrissy Lampkin, stole $7 million from me." Jim Jones sits in front of the camera, emotion weighing heavily on his face as he leans forward, ready to unveil a shocking chapter of his life. He pauses, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. "You heard me right," he says, daring anyone to doubt him. $7 million isn't just pocket change. I had to rebuild my career from the ground up, working relentlessly every single day to establish my name, only to find out that the person I trusted most was the one betraying me. A betrayal I never saw coming." Jim leans back, shaking his head in disbelief. "It started small, some odd transactions or missing funds here and there. At first, I thought it was just poor money management or maybe some bad investments, but I knew I had to dig deeper to figure out what was really happening. What I uncovered was something you'd only expect to see in a movie." His face tightens with a blend of pain and anger as he recounts the details. Jim takes a deep breath, still processing the hurt. "There were transactions going to places I never authorized. Chrissy had been moving my money around like it was her own personal savings. The shock of it hit me like a ton of bricks. We had built our life together. I thought we were a team." He leans in again, his intensity palpable. "When I confronted her, the denial, the excuses, they were unbelievable. This was someone I saw as my partner, my ride or die, and she just looked me dead in the eye, acting like it was all in my head. What cut the deepest wasn't just the money. It was about respect. It was about the very foundation of what we were supposed to have. I've come to learn that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones capable of inflicting the deepest wounds." His expression softens as he reflects on what lies ahead. "I would have given her the world. I wanted to build a future with her, but instead, she chose betrayal. Trust and love are supposed to be built on honesty and loyalty. It's going to take time, but I'm gradually piecing things back together, focusing on my music and my brand. This betrayal won't define who I am." With a determined look, he adds, "I'm reclaiming my power, step by step. I've come too far to let one betrayal hold me down." After Jim finishes speaking, the room is filled with a mixture of heartache and determination, reflecting a man set on reclaiming his story and shaping a new future. "I hope this serves as a wake-up call for anyone who believes they truly know their partner. Always trust your instincts and never stop being aware. You can never tell what might be lurking in the shadows." Following a cryptic Instagram story posted by Chrissy Lampkin on Friday, September 20th, reports have emerged that Jim Jones and his longtime girlfriend have officially ended their relationship. In her post, Chrissy Lampkin said, "I know neither of us will ever find someone like me, so I wrote you." While the exact meaning behind her message remains ambiguous, their relationship has been long and widely documented. The two first crossed paths nearly 2 decades ago in 2004 at a Harlem lounge. By 2011, Jim joined the cast of Love and Hip Hop New York, and although they appeared deeply connected, Jim often expressed reluctance about getting married to Chrissy. This was clear when Chrissy, in a bold move, proposed to the We Fly High rapper on the show. While Jim accepted her proposal, they still haven't made it down the aisle. Fast forward to December 13, 2019. In New York City, Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones were spotted backstage at the Barclays Center during the Deuce Apollo concert, captured in a photograph by Johnny Nunes for Wire Image. However, despite their public appearances, their personal struggles continued behind the scenes. During the 3rd season of VH1's Family Reunion, Love and Hip Hop Edition, Jim brought up the idea of marriage again, suggesting they finally tie the knot. But by 2021, after 18 years together, Chrissy had moved past the idea of getting married. In a moment that surprised many, she simply replied, "No." She went on to explain, "You expect me to be this loving, sexual, wild, cook this, cook that, and everything else, but when you come home, you're cold, distant, and mean." The couple's conversation grew heated, with Jim admitting his shortcomings and his fear of commitment. "I've always been afraid," he revealed. "But don't think I'm selfish because I love you more than anything in this world." Despite their long history together, Chrissy knew that the path they were on couldn't last forever. It needed to come to an end at some point. The living room is dimly lit, clothes scattered on the floor, with an open laptop resting on the coffee table. Jim, feeling the weight of his responsibilities, says, "As the man of my family, all I know is how to hustle, to provide, to make money." Meanwhile, Chrissy, seated on the couch, holds her phone tightly, tears welling in her eyes as she stares at the screen, trying to absorb everything that's happening. As we close this chapter, it's clear this story is far from over. Jim Jones now faces the challenging task of trying to mend his relationship with Chrissy and their son. Whether he'll succeed or if this marks the end of their family, only time will reveal. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this unfolding story. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.